NASA has long been a beacon of American ingenuity and ambition, largely shielded from the political turmoil that often engulfs other federal agencies. However, as the second Trump administration unfolds, the venerable space agency finds itself at a crossroads, with its future increasingly intertwined with the influence of billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk and the newly established Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. What was once an institution celebrated for its scientific rigor and pioneering spirit is now navigating a storm of politically charged reform, rapid bureaucratic overhauls, and ideological battles. On January 20th, during his inaugural address, President Donald Trump painted a grand vision of America's destiny among the stars. "We will reach for the stars, plant our flag on Mars, and lead the world in space exploration," he declared. Later that evening, Elon Musk, the high-flying mind behind SpaceX, took to the stage at a post-inauguration celebration, where he revealed in his newly appointed role as head of DOGE, the department tasked with slashing government bureaucracy. "With your support, we'll take DOGE to Mars," he announced to a crowd of fervent Trump loyalists. Despite the national excitement, NASA's day-to-day operations were already in motion. While many federal workers enjoyed a holiday, NASA employees worked around the clock, managing astronauts in orbit, scheduling imminent rocket launches, and processing astronomical data. Yet even as the agency's mission continued unabated, the winds of change were gathering force. Bill Nelson, the Biden-era NASA administrator, had stepped down, and the agency initially prepared for Jim Free, a seasoned civil servant, to serve as interim director. However, by the end of the day, a surprising email landed in inboxes. Janet Petro, previously in charge of the Kennedy Space Center, had been named acting administrator. In her introductory message, Petro reassured staff, "We do hard things every day, and this will be no different." Just 2 days after the inauguration on January 22nd, the transformation became painfully tangible. In a follow-up email, Petro announced that NASA would immediately comply with an executive order abolishing all diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility programs. These initiatives divided Americans, wasted taxpayer dollars, and resulted in discriminatory practices, the message stated. Critics soon pointed to figures claiming that DEIA initiatives had cost NASA a mere $13 million since 2021, a drop in the budget bucket for an agency tasked with probing the mysteries of the universe. Nonetheless, the directive sent ripples of uncertainty throughout NASA's corridors. For many employees, the policy shift was more than a budgetary matter. It was an assault on decades of institutional culture. A longtime staff member, reeling from the implications of Petro's mandate, whispered to a nearby colleague, "What the hell is happening?" The conversation quickly evolved into heated debates, with some questioning whether Petro's decisions reflected genuine administrative reform, or were simply a means to reinforce a politically driven agenda. Adding to the anxiety was a chilling clause instructing staff to report any coworkers who removed DEIA-related language from official documents, a mandate that threatened adverse consequences for non-compliance. The mandate raised concerns about surveillance and a culture of mistrust among colleagues, while the agency's commitment to scientific exploration continued unabated despite the internal turmoil. Amid the upheaval, NASA's headquarters, a drab stone building owned by a South Korean investment firm, became the stage for another dramatic entrance. Darren Bossie, the newly minted White House liaison, arrived on the scene, prompting employees to scour his digital footprint in search of answers. His resume revealed a curious mix of political maneuvering and a decade spent as an assistant manager at a Total Wine & More outlet in Florida. While his background in conservative politics, bolstered by a connection to David N. Bossie, president of Citizens United, seemed at odds with the scientific elite of NASA, the White House swiftly defended his appointment. claiming he had extensive experience and was instrumental in realigning NASA's mission with President Trump's cosmic vision. As the administration tightened its grip on federal agencies, remote work orders were rescinded, and a mandate for an immediate return to office took effect. With a mere 4 days to compile lists of probationary employees, workers with less than 2 years on the job, the message was unmistakable. Underperformance was no longer an option. A NASA manager's wry comment. On January 28, an ominous email from the Office of Personnel Management titled, "A Fork in the Road" flooded the inboxes of more than 2 million federal employees. It contained a pre-written deferred resignation letter, offering staff the option to resign while preserving salaries and benefits until September 30th, a tactic that echoed Musk's controversial handling of layoffs at Twitter. As staffers grappled with the shifting policies, a palpable tension settled over NASA. Uncertain glances in hallways and hushed conversations in dimly lit meeting rooms became the norm. Rumors swirled of an unidentified man, later speculated to be Bossie, circulating the Science Mission Directorate, snapping photos of pride flags displayed in employees' workspaces. While a White House official later claimed the photographs were of empty offices, the episode further stoked fears of a politically motivated purge within the agency. Meanwhile, the arrival of DOGE operatives added another layer of complexity. Scott M. Coulter, an investment fund manager in his 40s, made his entrance as DOGE's initial point of contact at NASA. His narrow focus on scrutinizing federal contracts raised eyebrows, particularly when juxtaposed against NASA's traditionally collaborative approach. In a further twist, Riley Sennett, a tech-savvy millennial with ties to Tesla, joined as a senior advisor in the agency's upper echelons. His presence, alongside a later arrival of Alexander Simonpour, reportedly an engineering manager from Tesla, deepened suspicions about the growing nexus between NASA and Musk's commercial ambitions. Amid this rapid influx of new personnel and sweeping policy shifts, Janet Petro took a controversial stand. In early February, facing mounting pressure from various corners of the agency, Petro resisted the administration's push for mass firings of probationary employees. "We don't have any expendable workers here," she insisted during tense internal meetings. This defiant stance, though praised by some as an act of preservation for NASA's core talent, was met with fierce opposition from bureaucratic hardliners who viewed it as a direct challenge to the administration's authority. Meanwhile, other agencies, such as the National Science Foundation, were less fortunate, experiencing abrupt layoffs and widespread upheaval during emergency Zoom sessions. A federal judge soon intervened, ruling that the OPM lacked the legal authority to implement such mass dismissals. U.S. District Judge William Alsup declared, "OPM does not have any authority whatsoever under any statute in the history of the universe to hire and fire employees within another agency." Although this ruling provided temporary relief, NASA insiders remained anxious about the possibility of more profound cuts looming on the horizon. Despite the internal chaos, one certainty remained. NASA's increasing reliance on private enterprise, particularly SpaceX, was reshaping the future of space exploration. SpaceX had become the linchpin for launching crewed missions to the International Space Station and was now contracted to build lunar landers and spearhead Mars colonization efforts. The financial and operational ties between NASA and Musk's enterprise deepened with each passing day. Billionaire astronaut Jared Isaacman, whose significant investments in SpaceX flights had long been whispered about in industry circles, was widely expected to be confirmed as NASA's next permanent administrator. This development, coupled with the infusion of personnel from Musk-associated companies, underscored a troubling convergence of public ambition and private profit. Yet, NASA's fiscal future remains shrouded in uncertainty. With a budget that now seemed increasingly strained, the agency faced a stark choice. maintain its long-standing lunar research programs or pivot toward the bold, Mars-centric vision championed by Musk. Some analysts warned that this shift could herald a new era in which NASA, traditionally a paragon of public scientific inquiry, might transform into a quasi-commercial entity influenced heavily by private capital. By early March, the restructuring had taken a definitive shape. DOGE, wielding its newfound authority, began eliminating entire departments. The Office of the Chief Scientist, a unit responsible for providing unbiased scientific counsel, was disbanded without warning. Similarly, the Office of Technology, Policy and Strategy was dissolved, resulting in the dismissal of 23 employees at headquarters, including several from the DEIA office. Unlike previous rounds of layoffs where staff were given the chance to transition to other roles, these positions were cut outright. Senior officials warned that stripping away decades of accumulated expertise could have far-reaching consequences. Every cut, every layoff, ripples through the fabric of our research and our mission, one NASA leader observed. The loss of specialized knowledge, whether it's an engineer's tacit understanding of spacecraft design or a scientist's familiarity with complex data sets, could imperil future missions. Spaceflight is an art, another official remarked. The nuances of our work cannot simply be codified in manuals. They are the result of years of hands-on experience, passed down from one expert to the next. Internally, the atmosphere at NASA has shifted dramatically. Informal conversations at water coolers have given way to hushed whispers and encrypted group chats on platforms like Signal, where employees discuss strategies to safeguard their professional contributions while avoiding administrative scrutiny. Even as NASA was once celebrated as the best place to work in the federal government for 13 consecutive years, a title awarded on March 7th, the accolade now rings hollow amid growing unrest. NASA isn't the same place it was 2 months ago, a manager confided, and I'm not sure it ever will be again. The specter of more extensive reductions looms large, with leadership meetings now dominated by discussions about workforce optimization. Federal employees across the country brace themselves for potential further cuts, not just among individual workers, but possibly through the wholesale elimination of entire departments. As NASA begins to develop a formal reductions in force plan, there is a palpable fear that the agency's long-term research capabilities could be severely compromised. A mistake made today might not show its full impact until an astronaut is on the Moon or Mars years from now, one senior official warned. Do we really want to be the administration that inadvertently undermined American space leadership? As NASA navigates this turbulent period, the agency stands at a critical juncture. The convergence of political ambition, private sector influence, and bureaucratic restructuring poses profound questions about the future of America's space program. Will NASA continue to be a bastion of scientific exploration and innovation, or will it be transformed into a streamlined, cost-cutting machine that prioritizes short-term political gains over long-term scientific achievements? Only time will tell if the current reforms will catalyze a renaissance in space exploration or lead to irreversible damage. For now, NASA's dedicated workforce, long accustomed to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, must contend with an evolving landscape marked by uncertainty, internal strife, and a rapidly shifting paradigm of what it means to be America's premier space agency. In this unfolding drama, the stakes are nothing less than the future of space exploration itself.